Tonight is Thursday night, November 20th, 2025, and it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to Mining the Riches of the Parsha tonight. I missed you while we were away, and I'm very, very happy to be back with you tonight. A couple of weeks ago, on the Parsha of Noach, I shared with you one of the opinions about the narrative of the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Babel. The people got together, they're building this big tower to reach to the heavens, and God comes and sees, and God is upset, and God destroys their project and scatters them and confuses them into different languages. And the question we ask is, what did they do wrong? And I gave several answers, and one of the answers I gave was the answer of the Abarbanel. And he says what was wrong was the attitude of the people at that time, because our rabbis in the Medrash say as follows: Im nafal adam v'meis, if a man who was working on building this tower, if a man would fall and die, lo hayusam lev alav, nobody paid any attention. V'im naflad levena achas, but if a brick fell down, hayu yoshvin ubochin v'omrim, they would sit and they would cry and they would say, woe is to us, woe is to us. Amos salah cheres tachtau. Where are we going to get another brick like this? How are we going to make up for this brick? In other words, the attitude was that people were just tools to the building of this structure, and there was no inherent value. But to the bricks, if they fell, it was a major incident. So I want to preface this by saying that I mean this in a humorous way. I don't mean it in any serious way, but just in a humorous way. So the past, for 10 days, we were in Israel, my wife and I, Marcy and I, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. And one of the really great experiences in Jerusalem on a Friday is to be able to go to the Shuk, Machane Yehuda, and it is so crowded. Everyone is getting ready for Shabbos, and this atmosphere of everyone getting ready for Shabbos, and it's crowded, and there are long lines. There's a little pushing, a little shoving, but it's all to glorify Shabbos. So last week, I had done the shopping for Shabbos early. I did it on Thursday night. My mother insisted that I do it on Thursday night when it's not last minute. But I still needed to buy one challah. We had some, but I needed one more challah for Shabbos. So there's a place that's my favorite place in the Shuk, my favorite place to buy challah. But this year, I wanted to get a whole week challah. Okay. So as I approached this shop, which is in the Shuk, which is in the market, I noticed, because it was a little bit late, I had done some other errands, it was close to about noontime. Shabbos starts at 4 o'clock. Shabbos started in Yerushalayim at 4:05 when we were there. So I can see from a distance as I'm approaching the store, the racks are almost empty. And I can see from a distance that on one of the racks, there's only 3 challahs left. Okay. I came into the store. It was jam-packed. It's a small place, like sardines. People are packed in, and everyone is grabbing the last this, the last that, the last cake, the last challah, the last, because there's no more chance after this. Where are you going to go? And I got one of the last whole week challahs. I'm holding it in my hand, and now I'm waiting in line. And that's a whole nother activity, because it's a long line, and it moves. It moves pretty fast because everyone's in a rush. But it's noisy. It's loud. People are yelling to each other about the price, about what they want. What do you mean? It should be less. It should be more. It's a chaotic scene. And I find a lot of beauty in that chaos. But it is noisy. It's loud and it's chaotic. And I was in line waiting to pay for my challah. And all of a sudden, there was absolute silence. Someone dropped a challah on the ground. It's like it's silence. A challah fell on the ground. This is one of the last challahs in Yerushalayim that's available. And it's almost Shabbos. It fell on the ground. So I thought about that medrash that I'd shared with you a few weeks ago about the Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel. But of course, it's not like that. Of course, the person picked it back up and everybody started yelling again and worked out okay. It was very beautiful. But, one of the last challahs falls to the ground. It's not a kleinigkeit. All right. Of course, I mean that in a humorous manner, to pay tribute to people who are so energetic about wanting to observe Shabbos properly. I want to share something very deep that I learned from Sivan Rahav Meir. At the beginning of this week's Torah portion, the Parsha told us, first we learn that Rivka and Yitzchak, they had trouble. Rivka had trouble to become pregnant. And then finally, Vatar Rivka Ishto, and then finally Rivka became pregnant. Vayisrotzitzu habanim bikirba. And she was having twins, and the babies inside of her were wrestling with each other. Vatomer, and she said, Im Kain, if this is so, lama ze anochi. Why is this happening to me? Vatelech lidros es Hashem. And she went to ask God. She went to ask a prophet who would tell her a message from God. Vayomer Hashem la, and God answered her and explained it to her. The two babies you have inside of you, shnei goyim b'vitnech, each one of them will be the originator of a nation, of mighty nations. And those nations will not get along. The boys will not get along, and the nations that will descend from them will not get along. V'rav yavod sa'ir. And the one that is more numerous will in the end be subservient to the one who is younger and lesser. Very, very strange. After waiting for many years, Rivka becomes pregnant. Okay, mazel tov. B'shat tova mitzlachas. Should be in a good time. Sivan Rahav Meir asks the question, if she thinks that there's something wrong going inside of her, she should have gone to a doctor or a midwife, or if you feel that there's something going on that's not normal, you would go to ask some kind of professional, whatever the professional was at that time. And maybe she did. The Torah doesn't tell us. But she also asked a question. Im Kain, lama ze anochi. That question reverberates throughout the generations. Im Kain, if this is happening to me, lama ze anochi. Why is this happening to me? Rivka understands that if something is happening to her, there may be a reason for it on the surface. Maybe you ask a midwife or a doctor, whatever professional there is. But if something happens, there's also a deeper meaning to it. Vatelech lidroshas Hashem, and she goes to ask God. And what she's asking God is, what is it that you want from me? What is my mission supposed to be? Something is happening inside of me. I know enough to know that it's not normal. What am I supposed to do given this situation? Who do you want me to be? And the truth is, this is a question that every one of us must ask ourselves on a regular basis. Who am I? What does God want from me? I find myself in a certain situation. I never thought I would be here. What is my mission here, God? Why did you put me here? In Rivka's case, she asked God and she received an answer. And the answer that she received is that there will be two children. They will quarrel, and they will represent two different approaches to life. There will be two nations that come from them, and they will be at odds with each other. And one of them will prevail. And the message God gives to Rivka is the younger will prevail. What are the two nations? What are the two views of the world? One is a materialistic view of the world that is represented by the firstborn child that she bears, Esav, who becomes a man of the field, a man of aggression, a man of action, a man that takes the world on face value. And on face value, the most important thing to have is power. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Power. That's what Esav wants, and that's what Esav has. And the other approach is the approach of Yaakov. The approach of Yaakov is to say and to see that what is on the surface is not all there is. There is a realm beyond just this physical material world. There is a realm that we refer to as ruchnios, a spiritual realm. A spiritual realm means that we are called upon to see the world beyond just what is on the surface. To see that it is possible to have a connection with God. A connection that goes beyond human reason or logic. That's the answer that Rivka gets. And the last part of it is that it's Rivka's mission. So what is her mission? Her mission is to make sure V'rav Yavod Tza'ir, that the vision of the younger should prevail. Now, there are a lot of difficulties in this week's Torah portion having to do with the relationship between Rivka and her husband Yitzchak, and this idea of who Yitzchak would give the blessing to, and Rivka engages in a subterfuge with her son Yaakov. That's very problematic. We'll leave that all for another time. But what we are to understand here at the very beginning is that Rivka understood that it's the vision of life, it's the vision of the world of Yaakov that must succeed, that will succeed over the vision of Esav. And that her mission, the reason she is having these issues, is that her mission is to see that Yaakov and his vision prevail. Now, Rivka gets an early indication that this understanding is correct. Because the next narrative, the Torah tells us, near the beginning of the Torah portion, Vayigdalu hana'arim, and the boys grew up. Vayi Esav ish yodeh tzayed ish sadeh. Esav was a man of hunting, a man of the field, of the outdoors, material, physical. V'Yaakov ish tam yoshev haholim. Yaakov was spiritual, intellectual. And Yitzchak had love for Esav, and Rivka loved Yaakov. And again, at this point, the idea is, according to Sivan Rahav Meir, that Rivka saw that it was Yaakov's vision of life that needed to prevail. And then we have this famous incident. Vayazed Yaakov nazid, and Yaakov made a soup. In the last few years, I don't know what it is, I have come to love soup. I just love soup. And in Yerushalayim, wherever we were, I always look for soup. Whatever restaurant we went to, takeout. And if anybody wants to know, if you're going to Yerushalayim and you would like to know where to get the best onion soup that you will ever find, speak to me and I'll tell you. It's not where you think. It's a very hidden place. But if you need to know, I'll tell you. The best onion soup you'll ever have. Yaakov was making soup. Vayavo Esav min hasadeh. Esav came in from the field. V'hu ayef. He was exhausted. Vayomer Esav Yaakov, and Esav said to Yaakov, Haliteni na min ha'adom hazeh. Give me some of that red stuff. Ki ayef anochi. Because I'm exhausted. Vayomer Yaakov. Yaakov says to him, Milchra kayom es b'choras chali. I'll give you the soup in exchange that you will give me your right to be considered the firstborn. Esav says, what do I need to be the firstborn? I want the soup. And they agree. And Esav eats the soup and doesn't care about being the firstborn. So first of all, it's clear that the soup is something I can see, I can taste. It's physical, it's material, it has mass. The birthright is something that is abstract. It's not concrete. It's not even clear what it means, but it's certainly abstract. So Rivka sees that Yaakov is a person that is connected more with the abstract, Esav with the physical. But let's talk not just abstract. Let's talk about the connection to God, connection to spirituality. Haliteni na min ha'adom hazeh. Esav says, give me some of that red stuff. What was that red stuff? Rashi says, adoshim, there were lentils. But you may know, if you go to the grocery store, there's more than one kind of lentils. There are many kinds of lentils. But these were adumos, red lentils. There's white lentils, green lentils, and there's also red lentils. These were red lentils. Now, that's an odd detail for our rabbis to tell us. I mean, okay, I understand the idea that Yaakov is making food and Esav wants it, and the fact that Esav wants the food and doesn't want something abstract, I get that part. But to tell me that it was lentils and that it was red lentils, why do I have to know that detail? So Rashi explains, Oso Yom Mes Avraham. That day, their grandfather, our forefather, Avraham Avinu, Abraham, had died. And the reason Yaakov was making this soup was to serve to his father, Yitzchak, who was an Avel, a mourner. Volama adoshim, why lentils? Why not French onion soup, which would have been my choice? But chicken soup is a close second, I just want to be clear. Lahavros es ha'avel, to provide the mourner with havra'ah. When a mourner comes home from the cemetery, the mourner is given a meal called su'udas havra'ah, the meal of havra'ah. The mourner is served a meal. And that begins the Shiva period. A person, God forbid, passes away. The immediate relatives prepare for the funeral. When the funeral is finished, the mourners go back to their home and they sit Shiva. They begin the mourning process. And they're served this meal. Why? Well, there's a practical reason for it. Person is going through an emotional period. They may be hungry. It's just very practical. They may have neglected their own hunger in their emotions or the busyness of preparing and getting ready for the funeral. So we need to make sure that we have to make sure that they're taking care, that we are taking care of them. Yisrael Salanter used to say, your Gashmias is my Ruchnias. Meaning, for you to have your physical needs met, that is a spiritual obligation on my part. I have a mitzvah, a spiritual obligation to make sure that you have enough food, enough water, a place to sleep, your clothes are okay. Those are spiritual obligations on my part. So we need to take care of the mourners. We feed them a meal. That's number one. Number two, the rule for this meal is the mourners are served by others because we want the mourner to feel they come back from the cemetery, they buried someone that was so dear to them, God forbid that they lost someone, a member of their family, and we want to give them the message that they are enveloped by family and friends that are there. They're not alone. They are part of a community. And we're going to take care of you. And we're going to look out for you. And we're going to try in our best to comfort you, whatever that means. But number three, the custom is to serve a food that is a symbolic food, a food that symbolizes nechama, that symbolizes consolation and comfort. We are familiar with the custom of serving hard-boiled eggs. But there are different groups of Jews that have the custom to serve other foods. And one of them is lentils. And the reason and the common denominator between lentils and eggs is that they are round. Okay, an egg is not exactly round, but they're roundish. And the idea is that the food is a symbolic food. It's a symbol of the circle of life. What does that mean? The circle of life? I know it's a line from The Lion King, but what does it mean? The Ramah Rav Moshe Isserles explains, it means as follows. Every human being has two parts, a physical body and a neshama, a soul, a part of me that is spiritual. When a person is born, the neshama and the guf and the body are joined. And then they live whatever number of years they live. And then at death is a parting. It's a separation. The guf, the body, is replaced into the ground. And the neshama, that continues to exist forever. It's spiritual. It's connected to God. Lasts forever. The Zohar says, the main text of Kabbalistic writing, that burial is referred to as zuriya, planting. We are planting the body so that in the future, in the Messianic era, if the person merits it, their body will come back to life. Tchias HaMesim. And that is only possible because the neshama is eternal. There is part of us that is material, physical. It waxes and wanes. We get stronger and then we get weaker. And then there's a part of us, the neshama, that's eternal. It lasts forever. It has always existed. It will always exist. So when we say a person has died, we say that the guf, the physical body, is put back into the ground, but the neshama is still there. Okay, you can't see it. It's spiritual. It's part of a spiritual realm. That's what we mean by the circle. And so when Yaakov makes this food, this soup of lentils, it's more than just a detail of the narrative. It is a demonstration of the essential truth of the worldview that Yaakov has. That there is a spiritual realm, not just the physical realm that Esav sees. There is a part of us that yearns for what is beyond just the physical, just the material, yearns for God, yearns for our connection to God, and allows us to access spiritual strengths that we would otherwise not be able to access. Last Thursday night, Marcy and I had the great pleasure to have dinner with a beloved relative, Marcy's aunt, Aunt Joan Crystal. She's such a wonderful, wonderful person, and we look forward to getting together. We had a beautiful dinner together. Some time ago, she shared a poem by Albert Camus. And part of it goes like this. In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. And that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, Within me, there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. Now, Camus might not have been referring to this, but we refer to that as our neshama, our soul. It is our soul that fights back when the world pushes against us. It is our soul, our neshama, the spiritual part of us, that gives us the strength to be able to be calm in the midst of chaos and to be able to smile in the midst of tears. That comes from the neshama, not the guf, not the physical body. And this is a verification for Rivka of what God told her before Yaakov was born, that this is his outlook on life, and that this is the outlook that must prevail. This outlook that we received from Yaakov and that was foretold to Rivka is evident in every generation in many ways. And it is especially evident today, especially today. I want to finish by sharing with you something that I found to be incredible from Rabbi Yosef Rimon. I've quoted Rabbi Rimon to you many times, and his ability to answer questions in a way that not only provides Torah direction and expertise, but also a sense of humanity and a sense of lifting people's spirits. Rabbi Rimon was asked the following question. The war in Israel started on October 7, 2023, just over 2 years ago. And Nebuch, there were so many who were killed on that day, and then so many afterwards. Hundreds and hundreds of young men and women who were slaughtered and murdered by terrorists, and then who gave their lives, sacrificed their lives to protect the Jewish people. Soldiers, men and women, willing to sacrifice and did sacrifice their lives. And this has been going on for 2 years. So life goes on. And there are many women, young women in Israel, Nebuch, who were bereaved. So many women who had just gotten married. So many women who had been married for a short time, maybe a few years. Maybe they did not yet have any children. Maybe they had 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 children. And these women now, Nebuch, they're almanos, they're widows. And in the way of the world, a person who was part of a couple, a woman who was married to a husband, no matter how much in love they are, Nebuch, something terrible happens, the husband is killed. There's a period of mourning, but life goes on. She has to take care of her children. She has to take care of her family, and she has to have her own life. And in the normal course of the world, eventually, some of these women will find that they're dating. They're looking for a new spouse. One of these women came to Rabbi Rimon, and she shared that she had tremendous agony. People tell her she should start to date, and she went on 1 or 2 dates, but she has this confusion inside of herself because she thinks to herself, it feels like I'm being disloyal to my husband. Okay, he was killed. Obviously, the marriage is over. He died. He was buried. But it feels like I'm being disloyal. It feels like, how could I ever love someone the way that I love my husband? We stood under the chuppah together and we made this promise to each other, and now I'm going to go date some other person. It's confusing to me. Can you give me some direction? How should I approach this period in my life? And it's not one, it's quite a number of women. And Rabbi Rimon says, the first thing he says in his answer is that there are quite a number of women who are in this position. And he says that it is absolutely normal for a woman in this circumstance to worry that maybe she's being disloyal to her husband, or maybe that she's doing something that will offend her husband's parents, her husband's family, like she doesn't cherish his memory, she's moving on. And of course, that's not true, but maybe she would feel like that. And he tells her, he reassures her, it's normal to feel like that. But then he says, here's the truth. And here he quotes from a source, a classical source, that says something incredible. This source says, when a man dies, a man is married, and he dies, he's killed, he's murdered, he dies in battle, whatever the reason. His neshama has no rest until his wife remarries. Obviously, we're talking about a situation where it is appropriate for her, where she wants to do this, where she's in a position to do this, that it's appropriate. But when it is appropriate and she remarries, that's when the neshama, the soul of this person, the first husband, is finally at rest. Why is that? Because the soul of that person knows that what he started with his wife, to have a family, to raise a family, and he was not given the merit to be able to continue that. God decided that it was time for his life to end, but he sees now that his wife is going to continue the mission that he started in life. It won't end with him. It will continue. And she will have someone to love and to be loved. That's when the neshama, the soul of the first husband, is at rest. And so Rabbi Rimon said to this woman, I understand that you feel this way, but I want you to know, if it is appropriate for you, and if you find someone, when you marry that person, you will be doing something that helps the neshama of your first husband. I share this with you not only because this is something really important that's going on in Israel now, and will be going on, but I share it as a practical application of what it means to live with an awareness of Yaakov's outlook on life, an awareness that there is a neshama, and there's something that I can do to help that neshama, that I, connected with my guf, while I am alive, can do something that has an effect on the neshama, which is purely spiritual, which exists for all times. But I can do something to bring rest and to bring resolution to that neshama. That we have only because it is Yaakov's outlook on life that we have, not Esav's. I don't understand why Rivka in our Torah portion had to do it the way she did it, and she couldn't have done it another way. I don't understand that. That's a complicated subject. But the truth is clear, that it is Yaakov's view of life that sees, yes, we have a guf, we have a body, we have to take care of it, we have to protect it, we have to defend it if necessary. We don't ignore the body, but we recognize that the ultimate importance of the body is to serve the soul. The ultimate importance of the physical is to support the spiritual. Because the ultimate goal in life is to come closer to God. And that can only happen as a result of the prophecy that Rivka was given, that Yaakov's vision will prevail. My friends, I wish you a great night and a beautiful Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon in person.